Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Hayla Alawi, and on behalf of Atmosphere Press, I am so pleased to welcome you to today's live author reading of new fiction. We're going to be hearing from Michael A. Kahn, author of The Gourmet Club, a novel released on April 22nd, and Darrell Berry, author of Early This Morning, a novel released on May 6th. Both of these authors' books can be purchased from online retailers and from select bookstores. Of course, the books can also be ordered on Atmosphere Press's website. That's at atmospherepress.com/book. I'm actually also going to put the links to each of these books in the chat for you all so you can go directly to them on Atmosphere's website. At the end of today's event, we're also going to have time for audience questions. So during the readings, if you've got a question for one or more of our authors, you can just go ahead and type those in the chat and I'll make sure they get asked. Please do stay muted for the duration of the event, but feel free to use the chat for praise and comments in addition to your questions. One last note is that we at Atmosphere Press appreciate your support today and always. And if you have a manuscript of your own, we would love to read it. So submit your work today to books@atmospherepress.com. Again, thank you so much for tuning in to support Michael, Darrell, and Susan today. We're going to start off with our first reader, who is Michael A. Kahn. Mike is a trial lawyer by day and an award-winning author at night. His novels include Bad Trust and 10 others in the Rachel Gold mystery series. The novel, The Serena Quest, described as a baby boomer version of The Big Chill meets The Maltese Falcon, and other novels and short stories. Married to his high school sweetheart, they are the parents of 5 and the grandparents of 11. His proudest moment as a writer is when his children took one of his books to school for show and tell. I can only imagine that must have been so fulfilling to know that they wanted to share that with everyone. Today, we're going to be hearing Mike read from The Gourmet Club, in which 4 young lawyers meet in the fall of 1981 as new associates at Chicago's prestigious Abbott and Windsor. They're ambitious 20-somethings, each having graduated with honors from a top law school, with big plans for the future and unaware that, to quote a Yiddish proverb, man plans and God laughs. Let's now welcome Michael.
Thank you, Ayla, and thank you for joining this. The novel, The Gourmet Club, although it begins in 1981 and is the story of these 4 lawyers and their spouses when they get together the very first weekend for a potluck dinner. They had a good time and they decided they're going to do it a few times a year. They call themselves the Gourmet Club. And this novel will track their lives over the next 25 years. But it opens with a flash forward ahead 10 years to 1991, and we're outside of a courtroom waiting for a jury verdict, where one of our 4, Gabe Pollock, is a lawyer. He's now a partner at Abbott and Windsor. And here's where that story opens in 1991. The jury is still out. Let me make sure I don't go over my time limit here. Let me start. The jury is still out. You can feel the tension up here in the 22nd floor of the Dirksen Federal Building in Chicago's Loop. Up here in the hallway outside the courtroom of the Honorable Harry L. Wilson, United States District Judge. It's a busy hallway this afternoon. Small groups of lawyers and corporate types talk softly, seriously, intently. 2 newspaper reporters, one from the Tribune, the other from the Sun-Times, wander from group to group, notepads in hand, trying to ask questions. There's Al Rimmel, over at the bank of payphones. He hangs up, ambles over to the courtroom door, yanks them open for the 10th time in the last hour, peers in, frowns, lets the door swing shut, checks his watch, grunts, moves back to the payphones, hands jammed in his pockets, jangling what sounds like $100 of change. Gazing around, he spots Gabe at the drinking fountain and grins. Hey, Pollock! Gabe turns toward the familiar, raspy voice. His expression softens as he watches his adversary approach. Rimmel is slightly bow-legged, which adds a swagger to his walk. Tried a good case, kid. Most guys your age don't know hearsay from horseshit. You did a nice job too, Al. These two are a mismatch. The tall, big firm litigator and his short, graying adversary. Gabe Pollock is dressed in the battle fatigues of an Abbott and Windsor partner. Pinstripe suit, impeccably cut to his slender athletic build, crisp white button-down shirt, striped tie, shiny black wingtips. With his strong features, dark eyes, and trim beard, he seems a cross between a Cherokee warrior and a rabbi. His opponent is a cross between a donut shop baker and a rent-a-cop. Mid-50s, 40 pounds overweight, bald, big ears, roll of fat on the back of his neck, loud check blazer, 2 White Owl cigars in the breast pocket, wrinkled gray slacks, big tie with a gravy stain, scuffed shoes, smudged reading glasses hanging from a loop around his neck. But looks are deceiving. The Mr. Donut facade masks a legal acumen exceeded only by his rapport with jurors. The mere presence of Al Rimmel at the plaintiff's table trebles the settlement value of any lawsuit, and with good reason. His annual take far outstrips the incomes of the big law litigators he routinely drubs in court. Rimmel leans in, voice low, offer still on the table. Sure your client don't want to reconsider, cap their exposure, end this puppy right now? They won't comment. Rimmel leans back with a frown and shakes his head. Jesus, Gabe, 500 grand is peanuts to those corporate putzes. You notice jury number 3, the big Schwarzer named LaDonna? You see her nodding when I asked for $4 million? I thought she was going to shout amen. What if Big Mama's the foreman? Why roll the dice? It's a matter of principle. Principle? Give me a freaking break, Gabe. Since when do corporations have principles? Rimmel shrugs and grins. You ought to come over to my side, boy chick. You got cast iron balls. You'd make a fortune doing plaintiff's work. And even better, he winks, you'd be able to sleep at night. Gabe smiles. I sleep fine, Al. 40 minutes later. Gabe Pollock is seated alone in the jury box in a darkened courtroom down the hall from Judge Wilson's courtroom. He stares at the far wall, his arms crossed over his chest. The courtroom door opens. Gabe turns to see Al Rimmel peering in. Gabe nods. Rimmel moves down the center aisle toward the front of the courtroom. In his pudgy right hand, he clenches a ballpoint pen, which he clicks over and over again with his thumb. He pushes through the swinging gates that separate the galley from the courtroom stage. Huh, that damn waiting can drive you nuts, eh? Gabe nods. Rimmel runs a finger under his collar as he paces in front of the jury box, still clicking the pen. He stops and looks at Gabe. Hey. Gabe gives him a curious look. Hey? Rimmel grins, clicking his pen. I didn't know you were once a big shot sports hero in St. Louis. Gabe frowns, coloring slightly. My younger brother, Mill, he lives down there. Used to cover sports for the Globe Democrat. Tells me in the phone last night that you were the best damn pitcher out of St. Louis since Ken Holtzman. I had a good team. Rimmel clicks his pen a few more times. Hey, Milt says you made the Parade Magazine High School All-American team. Is that true? Senior year. Says he covered one of your 6 no-hitters that season. Said he's never seen a high school pitcher with control like that. Called it Barnum and Bailey control. Says you got drafted by the Indians, but decided to go to college. Gabe leans back and stares at the ceiling tiles. So? Rimmel says. Gabe lowers his gaze. So how come a nice Jewish boy like you ends up representing Fortune 500 scoundrels instead of pitching Game 7? After a long pause, Gabe says, it's a long story. The courtroom door opens. An intense young female attorney looks in. Gabe? He turns. What's up? The clerk says Judge Wilson wants you back in the courtroom. She pauses, glancing at Rimmel. Both of you. The jury's reached a verdict. Gabe and Rimmel eye one another. Gabe is now at defendant's table. Seated next to him is Maxitech Industries Vice President of Human Resources, a gray-haired fellow chosen less for his involvement in the facts, giving rise to the lawsuit, than for his uncanny resemblance to the Andy Griffith of the old Andy of Mayberry series, an association that older members of the jury will find comforting, according to the jury consultants. Rimmel is at the plaintiff's table with Martin Heck, formerly the vice president of operations at Maxitech, currently the plaintiff in the lawsuit against Maxitech for wrongful termination and libel. Heck is slouched down low in his seat, frowning as he picks at his fingernails. Gabe had grilled him for nearly 4 hours yesterday, catching him in contradiction after contradiction. Yet at the end, as Gabe watched Heck get up from the witness box with a wince and walk stiffly back to counsel's table, he'd wondered whether his cross-examination had hurt the plaintiff's case or simply made Heck more pathetic and thus more sympathetic to the jurors. All eyes shift to the door as the door to the jury room as it swings open. First to enter is the plaintiff. First to enter is the bailiff, a stout black man in his 50s. Behind him come the 6 jurors, an assortment of ordinary folks. They file in, eyes down, and take their seats in the jury box. Silence in the courtroom. Gabe studies the jurors. None of them make eye contact with him. Not a good sign. Judge Wilson clears his throat. As the jury reached a verdict, a heavy-set black woman in the second row stands up. LaDonna Washington, Big Mama, Rimmel's favorite juror. She's holding a folded sheet of paper. We have, Your Honor. The judge gestures to his clerk, who goes over to Washington, takes the slip of paper and brings it back to the judge. The judge unfolds the paper, reads the verdict to himself, frowns, hands it back to the clerk, and nods. The clerk skims the paper, and turns to the attorneys. On count 1, he reads, we, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Al Rimmel breaks into a grin and clenches his fists on top of the table. On count 2, we, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Rimmel nods. Gabe remains motionless. On count 1, the clerk reads, we award the plaintiff damages in the amount of $100,000. On count 2, we award the plaintiff damages in the amount of $1. Rimmel's grin fades. Gabe purses his lips, his expression neutral. 10 minutes later, out in the hallway, Charlie Skeeter strides over toward Gabe, a big grin in his face. Skeeter is Maxitech's associate general counsel. He sat in the back of the courtroom each day and conferred with Gabe at night. As near as Gabe could tell, Skeeter's principal objection during the trial was to achieve total deniability on all strategic decisions in the case. Skeeter grabs Gabe's hand and shakes it hard. Damn fine job, Gabe. Damn fine job. Okay. Now, I mean it. Hell, man, we had the claim reserved at $700,000. You beat that by more than $500,000. I'll go call Mr. Bradley. He'll definitely be pleased. Most definitely. Gabe watches Skeeter duck march toward the payphones, arms pumping. Reserved at $700,000, eh? Been nice to have known that before. Al Rimmel ambles over to Gabe. Well, guess Vince Lombardi was right, eh? Gabe shrugs. I don't know. I only have a brother. Rimmel gives him a playful punch in the arm. I'll call you tomorrow. See if we can settle this sucker without an appeal. Gabe watches Rimmel swagger off and then heads over to the payphones. Meg answers in the third ring. It's me, he says. So? Well, I beat the reserve. What's that mean? The jury awarded $100,001. A pause. What was their last demand? She asked. $500,000. Wow, then that's great, hon. Yeah. Gabe inhales. Great. It is, sweetie. Come on home. We'll celebrate. The boys will be so excited they haven't seen you since last Thursday. We'll have fun, and after they go to bed, we will really have some fun. Mr. Pollock, Gabe turns. Standing there is Karen Sanders, one of the paralegals in the case. Just a sec, Kahn, Gabe says to Meg and turns to Karen. What's up? Your secretary called, sir. She needs you to get back to the office right away. Mr. Anderson needs to see you. Me? About what? Something big in the bottles and cans case? The client's flying in for a meeting first thing tomorrow? She gives him a sympathetic shrug. Mr. Anderson said it's going to be a late night. His secretary is arranging for dinner to be catered in. Gabe absorbs the information. For each of the last 6 nights, he'd been down at the office until close to midnight, getting home after 1 a.m., only to head back downtown the following morning on the 6:20. He glances at his watch. 4:45. Okay, go on back to the office, Karen. Tell them I'll be there soon. Then you go home, relax. I'm so sorry, Mr. Pollard. He smiles. It's okay. She leaves. He closes his eyes and exhales slowly. Meg, he finally says. I cannot believe it, she says. I cannot believe it. And that's the end.
Thank you so much, Mike. I love that we kind of got thrown into the action with some of that. So that really demonstrated so much of what that book is all about.
Unfortunately, I was worried about Al Rimmel cussing too much, but he didn't in that scene.
It all works out, at least for us today.
Yes.
Well, reading next today is Darrell Berry. Darrell is retired from the Army, having served in both the enlisted and officer ranks. He has a bachelor's degree in psychology, a master's in human resources, and a postgraduate diploma in strategic intelligence from the Defense Intelligence College. He served during the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy area regarding gay service members. The author lives north of San Antonio, Texas, with his 2 rescue dogs, and this is Darrell's first novel. But he's currently working on a second coming soon. For today, we'll be hearing him read from Early This Morning, in which a general officer at the Pentagon signs orders that could jeopardize the lives of 105 men and women. This crucial mission promises to advance the general's career, but it comes with grave risk. As they embark on a covert investigation into the target country's biological agents, the team faces exposure to highly toxic elements that threaten their safety. Darrell, take it away.
All right, thank you very much. Yes, the book it's a mystery, and it takes place during the time frame of 1994 to 2011, which was the Don't Ask, Don't Tell period. And yes, a group of officers, high-ranking officers in the Pentagon and some congressmen have been trying to get rid of gays and lesbians in the military. And as luck would have it, here comes a mission. And it is a very, very secret, top secret mission, and a very important mission. Some folks over in a small country in the Middle East are apparently working with biological agents in quantities large enough to weaponize. Well, we need to send spies over there to find out what the deal is. Problem is, during the planning of the mission, it's quite apparent that the morbidity and mortality rate of the people we send would just be overwhelming, and we probably couldn't even do the mission. But one of the generals said, well, why don't we kill 2 birds with 1 stone? Let's spy on suspected gays and lesbians, bring them together, form a company, train them up, and send them on the secret mission. Hopefully, they'll find out what we need to know about the biological agents. And if they die, if they get sick, who cares? They're dispensable. So that's kind of about the book. And I've got 2 short selections here to read. And this is a sort of at the beginning of the book when the plans are just sort of getting to be formed. Wednesday, March the 20th, 2100 hours at the Lucky Lounge, Seattle, Washington. 2 large hands clamped down on Trent's shoulders like vice grips, and he sloshed his drink on the bar. Exit, stage left. The bouncer's deep voice rang in Trent's ear. He could smell the peppermint gum the bouncer, Spike, always chewed. Last year, Trent paid the bouncer's bail, And from that day forward, Spike has always looked after him. Trent thanked Spike and quickly stood up from the bar. He gracefully maneuvered his muscular 6-foot frame through the dance floor that was packed with gyrating men to a pounding disco beat. "Sorry," he said as he bumped into a kid that was bent over the pool table ready to shoot. "Gotta pee." "Which way to the men's room?" The kid pointed to the back of the room with his pool cue, and after slowly shooting, handed the pool to his partner. "Gotta run to the John, be right back," he said as he walked away. Trent made a left at the back of the bar, but passed the door marked men and opened the next door labeled employees only. One of the other men had already unscrewed the light bulb, and Trent was glad to see that the room was totally in darkness. He had softly counted to himself 3 steps, and then the door opened again, and a blast of light interrupted the darkness. The kid quickly shut the door and started to count to himself. "Shit," someone whispered. "Sorry," Trent said. "Who all is here? We need to take a roll call." There was a tentative pause before the first person spoke. "John here. This is Bill." Another voice said, "Ken." "Adam." "Rich here." "Tad at the top of the stairs." Then silence. Trent mentally tallied the names. "That's all I saw tonight. No one else checked in with me. Anybody see anyone else?" Silence was the answer. "Let's move." Tad turned and opened the door on the ceiling, and the men piled out into the roof of the gay bar. The moon was bright, so they had no problem negotiating their way through the air conditioning vents and ducts. The men quickly moved to the roof of a small car wash connecting the bar's roof to that of an Italian restaurant next door. They ran to their usual hiding spot, a place always in the shadow of a billboard. They peeked over the roof onto Main Street. 2 unmarked black Ford sedans were parked outside the bar. Spike stopped the military police at the door. "Can I help you, gentlemen?" "Yes, sir. We have orders to check this establishment." "Check for what?" the bouncer said as he stood with his arms folded across his massive chest, his feet spread shoulder width apart. "Check for Army personnel, sir," the military police said, his eyes darting over Spike's shoulders. "This bar is off limits to armed forces personnel, and we have orders to inspect the premises." Spike rubbed his day-old stubble with his muscular hand. "Well, Sergeant, number 1, this is not a government establishment. Number 2, we have a dress code, and you don't comply with our code. Sorry." The sergeant took a tentative step forward. "But we have orders." Spike did not move an inch. In a low, intense voice, he said, "This is a private establishment, and orders don't mean squat to us. Have a good day, gentlemen." Trent watched as the military police returned to their unmarked cars and slowly drove away. Through the windshield, Trent could see their heads darting back and forth, scanning the sidewalks for anyone who might be military personnel. "Well, gentlemen, I would suggest that we take the back alley exit from the bar when we leave. If they don't catch us in the bar, they don't have a leg to stand on. Be careful, guys." Everyone entered the bar from the roof door. None of the patrons were scared off by the appearance of the military police, and all the men who fled to the roof would leave through the alleyway under the watchful eye of the bouncer when the bar closed down. And the second passage I'll read. Wednesday, March the 27th, 900 hours, Capitol Hill, Washington, D.C. Senator Payne slowly turned the dial of his safe next to his desk. Left 22 completed the combination, and he removed a document marked "Top Secret" from a stack of papers. His lips moved as he silently read the list of names to himself. He pushed the intercom button on his desk and asked his secretary to get General Wells on the secure phone. As he continued to read the names on the mission list, his hands trembled and he felt flushed with excitement. General Wells on line 1, his secretary announced on the intercom. Andy, how are you doing? The senator roared into the phone. Before the general could reply, Senator Payne eagerly asked, "Is the mission a go?" "Yes, sir. Within 3 months, the troops will be in place." "So, Andy, do you think that we can go to press with this in, say, 6 months?" "Yes, sir. Within 6 months, we will know if Teva is producing biological agents in quantities large enough to be used as weapons." "Andy, you've made my day. This is perfect timing for my next election. I will be an expert on biological agents in that part of the world, and I will be all over CNN before November." "Yes, sir," replied the general. There was an awkward silence. The senator cleared his throat and, in a soft tone, asked, "About the other issue, Andy, is it under control? Are you sure the personnel issue is under wraps?" "Yes, sir. All is taken care of. The mission is covert. The mole is in place, and all members of the team are, without question, shall we say, undesirable. Only a few of our most trusted top agents were used to spy and gather information on the team members." "Andy, you make me proud," the senator roared into the phone as his left hand gripped the receiver. "And I can assure you that as I rise to the top of this government, there will be a place for you by my side." "Thank you, sir. I'm just glad to be a part of the overall plan." "Keep me posted, Andy." "Yes, sir," the general said. The senator hung up the phone and smiled. This was an amazing opportunity. He would be the expert on the happenings of Teva, a little town in the Balkans, and every reporter would be coming to him for answers to their questions. Do they have a biological agent program? Is it being developed? Will they be using weapons? Who is in charge? An old Soviet spy? A terrorist? He would take the lead in Congress on this important discovery. More than likely, the soldiers who would be doing the spying would get sick and die, but that did not really matter. His lips tilted into a lopsided smile. His plan for using homosexual soldiers was brilliant. Weren't they already freaks of nature? They had no families, no children, and they spread as much disease as the biological agents for which they would be looking. The senator carefully placed the top secret document back into his safe and turned the combination dial. He smiled from ear to ear. He could not believe his luck. Without a hitch, the mission was progressing just as planned.
Thank you so much, Darrell. Kind of leaving us off on a bit of a note of what is the word I'm looking for? I don't know. I feel nervous. So thank you for that reading and keeping us on our toes here. Our final reader for today is Susan Ellison Busch. Susan is a nurse practitioner with many years of experience caring for patients with kidney disease. She has taught nurse practitioner students as faculty at Kent State University and spoken at national conferences on topics related to kidney disease. Her first book, Yearning for Normal, is a memoir about raising a son with 22q11 deletion syndrome. It's a Reader's Favorite Book Award winner. She's the mother of 3 grown sons and lives with her husband on the edge of the Cuyahoga Valley National Park in Ohio. When she isn't writing, she enjoys the trees and the sky, hiking, and playing tennis. Chance at Life, the book that Susan will be reading from today, provides a portal into the lives of dialysis unit regulars, both patients and staff. Together, they confront life's limitations and its certain end with unique stories of struggle, hope, and resilience. We're going to hear more now from Susan herself.
Thank you, Hala. This is the cover. Actually, it's my whatever copy that was. the one that you couldn't resell it. Anyway, I think I'll start with the dedication, and then I'll start with the first chapter. This book is dedicated to people requiring dialysis to live, who have taught me how to find love and laughter amid adversity. They have taught me to appreciate my own life, the freedom to eat whatever strikes my fancy, and the extraordinary ability to urinate. Someday, in the distant future, stem cell research will enable patients to grow new kidneys to replace their sick and dying ones. In the nearer future, dialysis patients will clean their blood using artificial kidneys the size of cell phones in belts around their waist, or with an implanted artificial kidney. The phenomenon of a chronic dialysis unit is temporary. In those future days, people will wonder what it was like for the people who spent long hours of their lives in a chronic dialysis unit, suffering inconvenience, drudgery, and pain for a chance at life. And then I'll just start. So I'm just starting with the first chapter. It's kind of like an ordinary day in a dialysis unit. But it's probably good. Oh, I should put my timer on, or do you stop me?
I can have a timer going on my end, but either way works.
Okay. I didn't really time myself to do this. Timers. And since I already had time, I'll put on for 10 minutes. Okay. So chapter 1. Rachel panicked when Michael, the other nurse, called in sick to the United Dialysis Associates chronic dialysis unit. Both the unit manager and medical director were away at a conference, leaving Rachel with the sole responsibility for 32 lives on her shoulders. Luckily, the day had been uneventful with trivial problems. One patient complained that his chair massager didn't work, another's TV malfunctioned, and another signed off for dialysis early. The ongoing thermostat skirmishes continued, though. Patients shivered with their blood and tubing outside their bodies while the dialysis technicians sweltered in lab coats as they engaged in the physical labor of setting up, cleaning, and tearing down dialysis machines. The techs repeatedly lowered the thermostat settings for their personal comfort, but today, after the third patient complained of freezing, Rachel surreptitiously raised the thermometer to 70 degrees, and so far, the technicians hadn't noticed. The second shift of 16 patients dialyzed comfortably on recliners next to their dialysis machines, lining the four walls of the unit. Some watched TV while others slept, read books, chatted with their neighbors, or worked on their laptops. Rachel studied their faces. In the years she had worked in this unit, she had grown to love her patients, their quirks, their families, and the special adjustments each patient needed for a comfortable dialysis session. Rachel drummed her fingers on the counter at the nurse's station, enjoying a rare quiet moment following the noisy chaos of shift change. It didn't need to be so hurried and stressful, but chronic dialysis is big business, focused on efficiency and the bottom line. Time is money and can't be wasted on leisurely and safe shift changes. The technicians were taking a break in the corner, talking and laughing about her. Well, she didn't know that for sure, but she knew they didn't like her. It wasn't just her youth. The different roles and responsibilities between nursing staff and dialysis technicians created a chasm ripe for conflicts. It was a lonely position some days, but today the techs had included her in the latest gossip bubbling among the staff. Mr. O'Hara and Mrs. DeLong were having an affair, and two men on the first shift had started leaving the unit, arms entwined. Rachel wondered what attracted the couples to each other. Perhaps the attraction was just having one person who knew exactly what they were experiencing. As she prepared her patients' medications, she planned a Shabbat dinner of roasted chicken, potatoes, and asparagus with mushrooms. She hoped her fiancé Steve would approve and planned to stop at the bakery after work to pick up some challah. The sound of JR shouting, Rachel, Darnell's sprung a leak, jolted her out of her reverie. For a second, she assumed it was just another of JR's jokes. But when she saw Darnell covered in blood, with the dialysis tubing spraying his blood like a garden hose, she panicked and ran to his chair shouting, "Oh no, help, shit, shit, shit." She stopped the dialysis machine and applied pressure to Darnell's arm to stop the bleeding. He had been asleep, but the commotion over his blood loss had awakened him. She pushed the head of Darnell's recliner back to prevent him from passing out. Her heart pounded and her hands trembled with the knowledge that with a few more minutes of this, he'd be dead. Darnell was in his mid-20s, amiable and engaging, a favorite of both staff and patients. He had sauntered in the unit a few hours earlier, handsome and robust, with shoulder-length dreadlocks and smiling eyes. But now he was pale, his skin cold and clammy. Rachel frowned. The technicians helped her retransfuse the remaining blood from the machine. They gave him saline and oxygen and monitored his blood pressure. Darnell moaned, "Oh, my ears are roaring." Tamika, his tech, replied, "Your blood pressure is low from losing all that blood. We're working to bring it up." As Rachel applied pressure to Darnell's arm, she turned to JR, the lanky, middle-aged jokester in the chair to the left of Darnell. "Oh, thanks for the alert. Close call." JR grinned. "Do you remember the time I called you over for Alibaba? He wasn't bleeding. He just wasn't breathing. I kept wondering why he didn't move." Rachel groaned. "Oh, his name was Ellen Babcock, and don't remind me of that day." She returned her attention to Darnell. "What happened?" He moaned. I don't know. I dreamt I caught a walleye off the pier. My needle must have slipped out as I reeled it in." Mr. Freeman, the patient to the right of Darnell, said, "Oh, that was some dream. No one catches walleye off that pier." Darnell nodded. Mr. Freeman continued speaking. "That's the worst blood loss I've seen in all my years in a dialysis chair. Are you okay?" Darnell nodded again, this time tentatively. The staff worked as a team to mop Darnell's blood off the floor, the chair, and the machine. As it was futile to clean the blood off his shirt, Rachel brought him a hospital gown, but he shook his head. JR quick explained Darnell's refusal. A bloody shirt fits his tough guy image better than a hospital gown. Rachel anxiously tried to figure out how the accident happened. She took Tamika aside. "Who taped Darnell's needles today?" "I did. Are you insinuating I don't know how to tape a needle? I've worked in dialysis since before you were born, Missy." Tamika stomped away, declaring loud enough for everyone in the unit to hear, "I'm sick and tired of rookie nurses thinking they know something with their fancy degrees, ordering us around, telling us this and that, looking for someone to blame." Tamika's outburst eviscerated Rachel. Her face flushed and her already trembling body shook a bit more. Her voice quivered as she turned to Betty, another tech standing nearby. This machine should have alarmed before Darnell lost all that blood. Can you take it to the tech room and check the alarm?" Rachel noted in her head that it was machine number 23. She turned to Darnell. "You need to stay here until your blood pressure recovers. I don't want you passing out at the wheel on your drive home." She asked Betty to give him a cup of chicken broth and saltine crackers. The afternoon ran its course. Rachel cared for the other patients, administered their medications, and finished her charting while Darnell languished in his chair, unable to stand up without his blood pressure dropping. One by one, patients completed their treatments and went home. The techs finished cleaning and calibrating the machines and departed, stranding Rachel and Darnell in the empty unit. Rachel gave him more saline, more chicken broth, and more saltine crackers, but the usual strategies weren't working. She looked at her watch. "I'm calling an ambulance to take you to the emergency room." He shook his head. "I'm not going to the ER. They'll make me wait for hours for nothing. Been there, done that. They won't make you wait today. One glance at your bloody shirt and the triage nurse will rush you right in. He shook his head. Yeah, they'll rush me in, stick me with needles, and ask questions later. They'll give you a transfusion to replace some of the blood you lost today, Rachel offered hopefully. They told me in the transplant office to avoid transfusions because exposures to other people's blood increases my chance of rejecting a kidney, if I ever get one. He looked away. You lost a lot of blood. I'm not going to the ER. I just want to go home and sleep. Rachel hated when patients didn't follow her advice, a frequent occurrence in the dialysis unit. She surmised they all had too much experience with the healthcare system to trust it or anyone else in it anymore. Who can you call for a ride home? No one. Rachel put her hands on her hips. Well, if you won't go to the hospital and you're in no condition to drive a car and you can't spend the night in the chair, what do you propose? I didn't drive my car today. I rode my motorcycle, Darnell replied with a feeble grin. Rachel rubbed her temples. Oh, that's great, a motorcycle. She went to the nurse's station and paged the on-call doctor repeatedly without response. Finally, she reached Elizabeth, the nurse practitioner who rounded at the unit, and explained her dilemma. Elizabeth advised her to send him to the ER and hung up. Rachel stared at the receiver a few seconds, disappointed by Elizabeth's response. She had hoped Eli would suggest a creative solution to her dilemma. Rachel returned to Darnell's chair and relayed, oh, okay, my 10 minutes is up. All right.
Thank you so much, Susan. I think that was just such a great look in, just like you were aiming to do with this book, at the lives of these patients and the staff working with them. So thank you for that reading. So at this time, we have time for our audience Q&A. So if anyone has a question for one or more of our authors, go ahead and type those in the chat, and I will make sure they get asked. We do already have a couple questions in. So this first question is actually from me because I know that all three of these books come from experiences that all of you have professionally or personally. So I'm curious to hear from you. How did those background experiences influence the themes in these books and the writing process of these books? I'm wondering if we can go in reading order. So Mike, do you want to start us off with this one?
Sure, Hala. You know, I mainly have written mystery novels. This is not a mystery. And the idea was sort of germinated back when I was a first-year associate at a fancy Chicago law firm. And there were three others of us, although we weren't all first-year associates, a couple were older, who ended up doing a potluck dinner. And we decided to form this gourmet club where we would meet every 3 or 4 months. We did it. I was in Chicago for about 5 years. And then we moved back to St. Louis and formed another gourmet club there. But I like the idea of trying to track 4 couples, and they wouldn't all remain couples, over a 25-year period, drop in on them at different times. And so, you know, although nobody from my gourmet club is in the novel, and it was kind of fun because I didn't really know where I was going. When you're writing a mystery, you kind of want to know where you're going to end up. And if you don't, you have to rewrite it by the time you get to the end, so it all makes sense. This was more kind of, let's see where these people are going. Are they going to end up together? Are they going to end up as lawyers? Are they going to do something else? So the idea for it came from my own gourmet club that my wife and I were in, one in Chicago and then later one in St. Louis. But I can assure all those members that none of them are in that novel.
So perhaps a bit of relief in that case, or maybe some disappointment. Maybe they were hoping for it, but I love that idea of doing that with you know, friends or associates or whatever it might be. So it's really cool to hear that that's where that came from.
And you know, Ayla, I should add one thing to make it realistic. On each of the gourmet club dinners, over this 25-year period. It opens on a page that has the courses from the appetizers to the dessert, which
Yeah.
they're all taking turns. And I had to do research to make sure that what was popular in 1985 was different than what was populated in the gourmet dinner in 1993. It was kind of fun looking at Bon Appetit, Good Housekeeping, and all these other magazines that would give you a sense of what was going on at that period. So I'll shut up.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really unique way to give that historical context. So
Yeah.
thanks for adding in that detail here. And Darrell, what about you? What were the personal experiences or the background? How did that influence how you wrote this book?
First of all, Michael, I can't wait to read your book. I'm a foodie, so
Good.
Yes, I served in the military. I'm gay. I served in the military during that period of time, so I know a little bit about that. I also worked in top secret area dealing with biological agents, so I know a little bit about that. Had to be kind of careful because of working in that area, but everybody rest assured, there's nothing top secret in my mystery novel. Nothing at all. It's all open source. But yeah, I kind of blended those two areas together, and the characters in the book were taken from not any one person, but from a lot of people that I served with, and none of it is. I'm not in the book at all. Trent is not. A lot of people read the book and say, "Oh, you're Trent." No, I'm not. But yes, those are the two areas: the biological warfare and the gays in the military are both something that I knew a little bit about. So it was kind of fun to write fiction about it.
You know, Darrell,
Yeah.
I could say that I'm hoping that novel has a suitable amount of revenge on those horrible people who are plotting this. I'm not asking you about the ending, but I don't know about these other listeners, but the more you were reading, the angrier I was getting. I'm thinking, oh boy, I hope they get their comeuppance by the end of this novel. And I'm not asking you because I know that's part of the suspense, but I'm just telling you, as a future reader of that novel, I'm sure hoping there's what I would call a happy, revengeful ending.
I totally agree with you. I mean, even reading it myself, you have this anger. I mean, did you experience any of that surveillance or,
I will say this. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
no, I'm asking you.
Um, I will say this. Certainly, I experienced being in a bar and someone coming over to me that I didn't know him well, but just an acquaintance, and other military people would be in the bar too, and the individual coming over to me and whispering to me, "They're in the area now," and I knew exactly what they meant, that there were military police either in the bar, in incognito or whatnot. I guess I was young and stupid. I never, I thought, well, hey, I'm just here. What are they going to do? Of course, if it was off limits, they could have arrested me. But yeah, so I did have a few little experiences like that. Yeah.
Were you ever
Yeah.
afraid? Were you ever afraid that you would get harmed?
Not harmed, found out.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I can imagine how that fear of being outed or, um, you know, even in this place where, I mean, it's your workplace, it's so much of your life, and I can imagine how much that really feeds into the work and, drawing from those experiences, even if this is a novel rather than a memoir, let's say. So I'm sure that so much of that realism comes through, Darrell.
So I have another question for Darrell. So would, if it was the don't ask, don't tell, were they still looking, or what would have happened?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
What would have
They were
happened?
still looking to get, yeah. that you could not ask someone and they could not tell you, but they could be outed at a bar, undercover. I mean, there were a lot of ways that they could say, they go to this whatever bookstore or whatever. So people were still being relieved from duty. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
All right. I guess that was my question. That sounds like really exciting, like a real adventure. Do these guys, are they really successful in the mission?
Oh, don't give it away. Don't give it away.
Now we
Right.
can't give away too many spoilers about the book.
Yeah, Darrell wants to tell these books.
But definitely everyone, I hope that you are definitely checking out the link to the book in the chat so you can find out. But for now, Susan, I also want to pose to you, how did those personal experiences and your background influence the writing of your book?
So there are no other books. I mean, there's like patient support things, but there's no other books that sort of describe what it's like. And it's a unique culture. You have people who are extremely wealthy and people who are so poor they can't even get enough. So you have this huge spectrum of people all together needing dialysis to live. And if they skip it for a day or two, they're dead. They'll die very quickly. So it's a unique culture, I think. And so they become friends, they take care of each other, they watch out for each other. So I wanted to show what it was really like in a dialysis unit and some of the issues that happened. So would I say, I mean, no, I don't, nobody, well, this one guy, JR, when I was still rounding in a dialysis unit, he says, "Oh, put me in there and call me JR." That wasn't his real name, but he has since died. So nobody would recognize himself, but they're all composites of people I've worked with or people I knew. Maybe I, expanded a few things, elaborated or whatever.
Yeah, certainly. I mean,
Um,
oh, sorry, Darrell, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I cannot read. I can't wait to read your book, Susan, and just thank you for shining a light on something that I think most people don't think about, or if they do, don't want to think about. So thank you. Can't wait to read it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's one of those things, right? That until it happens to you or until you're in that situation, you
Yes.
might, never really dive into that. So I think this is such a beneficial pushback against that.
Yes.
This next question, again, for all three writers, what are you planning to write next? Maybe we can go in reverse order. So Susan, do you want to start us off on this one?
I haven't started anything, so it's kind of interesting to hear that you guys have maybe started another book. I have a list of topics for a sequel, if I decide to do a sequel. I sort of pictured my book. I mean, you guys don't know all the situations that happened, but I sort of pictured it like Call the Midwife, which are stories at the beginning of life of a midwife's bringing life into the world, where dialysis, they're all stories at the end of life. And there are so many stories. So I have a list of sequel topics. Will I do it? I don't know. I mean,
Do
we'll
it.
see.
Do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've
Now,
already got some votes in favor, so that's exciting.
okay. All right.
Were you going to say something else,
Oh,
Susan?
no, I'm going to say, now I have this Substack that I'm mostly political and like up in arms about what's happening, but that's what I'm busy writing about now. So, yeah.
Totally understood. Yeah, though it's always good to be getting some writing on the ground as well.
Yeah.
Darrell, what about you? What's next for you as a
I'm at the
writer?
very, very beginning, another mystery having to deal with a Lyft driver and the 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 riders that he picks up. But at the very, very beginning of that, and I kind of even put brakes on it because a young man out of University of Texas, Austin, and film with a master's in film is looking at doing a screenplay early this morning. So I'm going to be involved with that a little bit on the screenplay side. So I've had to put kind of brakes on uh, this second. But I've got my, I mean, I've been driving for Lyft every now and then to try to pick up a cadre of characters. And believe me, I found some out there.
Yeah.
I bet. Yeah.
What an exciting way to kind of develop all these characters from this amalgamation of characteristics you run into.
Mhm.
And Mike, what about you? What's next for you as a writer?
So just as the Gourmet Club had been something that had been percolating for a few years while I was writing these mysteries, I have another one that it's been percolating. Some stuff has been written. It's sort of a modern version of The Great Gatsby, set in this unidentified Midwestern town. It's not Jay Gatsby, it's somebody else, but it's his next door neighbor is kind of, sort of in the same role as Gatsby's next door neighbor, who's the narrator. It's been fun. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, so something on the horizon for sure, which is absolutely exciting. So at this time, I just want to say thank you so much to all three of our authors. It was so wonderful to hear your books come to life together here. So Michael, Darrell, and Susan, thank you so much for being generous with your time, with your books. These thoughts in the Q&A have been great to hear as well. Thank you to everyone in the audience for joining us to celebrate these authors too. And don't forget, of course, that you can order the Gourmet Club early this morning and Chance at Life from the links that are in the chat. I'll put those links all in the chat one more time so you don't have to dig through there for them. But please also consider checking out atmospherepress.com to browse our new and forthcoming releases, sign up for our email newsletter, or, of course, submit a book manuscript of your own. You can submit your work to books@atmospherepress.com and just let us know that you attended today's event. We look forward to hearing from you, but until then, that's it for today. So have a great rest of your week, everyone.